Ça veut dire que même si vous ne vous voyez pas vous-même à l'écran, vous êtes filmé tout le temps, tout le temps, tout le temps. Donc pensez bien, si vous ne voulez pas être filmé, je vous conseille de vous mettre au fond de la salle, parce que sinon vous êtes filmé. Donc ça c'est important à savoir, et voilà quoi, donc vous êtes filmé tout le temps, donc gardez ça bien en tête, même si vous ne vous voyez pas à l'écran, vous êtes filmé tout le temps. Oui, alors attendez aussi, on vient de me dire que, en fait, bon, c'est très important, il faut éteindre les portables. Et puis, est-ce qu'on peut me répéter à l'oreillette? On fait vraiment comme à la télé? C'était quoi, Thomas? Oui, c'était ça, voilà, c'est ça. Voilà, donc c'est ça. Donc ça, c'est les téléphones qui sont éteints pendant le film, pendant le Q&A, la rencontre. Si vous voulez filmer, prendre des photos, allez-y, il n'y a pas de souci. Dès que le film commence, éteignez et rangez vos portables. Donc je crois que c'était ça l'essentiel. Hein. Donc je vous rappelle, ah oui, une autre chose. On est diffusé, en fait ce qu'on fait là, on va être diffusé dans 10 salles de cinéma partout en France. Donc il n'y a pas que vous, il y a plein d'autres salles. Donc si je suis en train de parler là-bas à cette caméra-là, en train de dire bonsoir la France, c'est pour ça. Ou si je suis là-bas en train de parler aux gens, encore une fois, c'est des caméras, mais on est diffusé partout. Donc n'hésitez pas si vous voulez applaudir quand on présente le cast, des choses comme ça. Quand on cite Paris, voilà. Comment? Ouais, je suis prête. Il est en train de me parler de Marie. Attends, on y va? Vous êtes prêts? Allez! Bonsoir la France, bienvenue à cette avant-première de Ready Player One. Je m'appelle Jenny Godila, je suis ravie d'être avec vous ce soir. Dans quelques instants, nous allons partir à Londres pour une rencontre exceptionnelle avec le grand cinéaste Steven Spielberg. Steven Spielberg, vous le connaissez tous, cet Oscar qui a gagné l'Oscar pour le meilleur réalisateur 2 fois pour Il faut sauver le sol de Ryan et puis aussi pour La liste de Chandler. Vous allez le découvrir sur ce grand écran et sur vos écrans à partir de Londres en compagnie de, par exemple, l'auteur du livre Ready Player One, celui qui a également coécrit le scénario, mais également les 2 jeunes stars du film, Ty Sheridan et puis Olivia Cook. Donc cette rencontre sera diffusée dans 10 salles de cinéma partout en France, des salles comme Nantes, Rennes, Lyon, Grenoble, Marseille, Toulouse, toutes les salles Gaumont-Pâté. Et puis à Londres, ça va être l'animateur britannique qui s'appelle Alex Zane, qui est là aussi avec l'équipe du film à Londres. Alex, hello! Hi London, can you please introduce everyone to our French audience?
Thank you, Jeannie, and hello to everyone watching in France. Yes, if I could please ask you to put your hands together and give a huge round of applause for our 4 guests here in London tonight. First of all, he is the author and co-screenwriter of Ready Player One, Mr. Ernest Cline. He plays Wade in the movie, aka Passable. It's Mr. Ty Sheridan. She takes the role of Samantha, aka Artemis. It's Olivia Cook. And last but by no means least, the legendary filmmaker responsible for bringing this movie to the big screen, Mr. Steven Spielberg.
Alex, thank you so much. Hi everyone, my name is Jeannie Godula. I'm so happy to be with all of you. Just to remind you to our cast in London and crew, I'm going to be asking these questions first in French so the French audience can understand, and then in English. So I'm going to start first with you, Steven Spielberg. Ça fait à peu près 10 ans, on dirait, depuis que vous avez fait un film qui était proche de la science-fiction. Qu'est-ce qu'il y avait dans Ready Player One qui vous a dit que c'était ça le film qu'il fallait? Steven, you haven't made a film that's close to to science fiction, excuse me, for some time now. What was it about Ready Player One that made you want to say this was the movie I want to make?
That was a good Freudian slip by saying Stephen Fiction. That was very good.
I'll take that as a compliment.
I think I really owe everything to the author of the book, Ernest Cline, who wrote something so original and so, in fact, mind-blowing, and so mind-blowingly close to the way things are actually developing in the world of virtual reality, that he wrote a book that's closer to science than he did to fiction. And when I read the book a number of years ago, I just thought, my God, this is like the kind of movies I made myself in the 1980s. And there are so many 80s references in the decade that he so lovingly writes about in the book that I said, I think this is a movie I cannot live without making. So you're about to see the results.
Ernest, une question maintenant pour vous. Vous avez dit que c'était justement Steven Spielberg qui a influencé le livre, en fait, quand vous l'avez écrit. Est-ce qu'il y a... Qu'est-ce qu'il y avait dans la tête quand vous saviez que Steven Spielberg lisait le scénario? Ernest, what went through your head when you heard that Steven Spielberg, who was such an influence on the book, was reading the script?
Well, you know, it was a whirlwind, a couple of minutes where I first got very excited, and I couldn't believe it. It was impossible to wrap my head around. And then, you know, the more I thought about it, I thought, well, he's going to read the script, and you know, then he'll pass on the project. And now, you know, then I'm going to have to spend the whole rest of my life imagining what it would have been like if Steven Spielberg had made Ready Player One. So that was a long couple of weeks while he decided. But thankfully, you know, I don't have to live the rest of my life wondering. You know, none of us do, because he went ahead and made it, and he knocked it out of the park.
Ernest, for our fans out here in France, pour les fans ici en France qui ne connaissent pas l'histoire, et puisqu'on va en parler un petit peu maintenant, juste donne-nous quelques grandes lignes. Ernest, just for those of the fans here in France who are watching, who aren't familiar with the story, just give us the pitch if you like.
Sure. Well, Ready Player One takes place about 30 years in the future, and when the internet has kind of been replaced by a virtual reality simulation called the Oasis. And so when people log onto the internet, they log onto the Oasis, and they're inside of it. And the story follows the creator of the Oasis, James Halliday, in the opening of the book, dies and leaves behind a contest announcing that whoever finds this Easter egg he's hidden inside this sprawling virtual world will inherit his fortune and control of that virtual world. And the story follows a group of young heroes who have met in the Oasis and lived most of, a big chunk of their lives there, who are searching for the Easter egg in competition with an evil corporation called Innovative Online Industries, who's also in seeking the egg. So yeah, that's the basic premise.
Thank you for that. Steven, et pour vous, quand c'était le moment de caster les jeunes pour justement interpréter ces rôles que Ernest a créés, vous avez choisi les deux acteurs qui sont à côté de vous. Est-ce que vous pouvez nous les présenter et pourquoi eux? Steven, why, when it was time to come to casting, why did you decide to go with Ty and Olivia? What was it about them that you liked so much?
Well, the thing it was, in trying to find the counterparts or the characters to play the roles, both in Ernest Cline's book and Zach Penn, who wrote the screenplay, adapted the screenplay in his script. I was looking for a very proactive, somewhat of a feminist, very strong leading young lady, who has an agenda, not just about getting the egg, but trying to deliver justice for the death of her father at the hands of this bad corporation called IOI. And he is somebody very strong, very proactive, and I met a lot of young actors for the part, and I don't even want to say how many, but there were a lot. But when Olivia came in and read for me first, not for me, but the casting director, Ellen Lewis, and later came to read for me in person, when she walked in the room before she even started reading the lines, I didn't tell her this, but I said to myself, she's got the part, that's Artemis, that's her. Ty, very same story. I needed somebody who was very in earnest. He was a fanboy of James Halliday. He's almost a reflection of James Halliday when he was younger and understands everything about him, and is dedicated, devoted to this character who he's never really met, only seen. And I was looking for a lot of young actors to play him, and these are all actors in their late teens, early 20s. And just like the Olivia story, many actors came in and read for the part. A few actors came in and read personally for me. When Ty walked through the door, before he opened his mouth, he said, okay, I got my cast. I got Olivia Cook, I've got Ty Sheridan, and here's the best news, they don't know this yet. They're about to find out.
Olivia, une question pour vous. on connaît beaucoup Steven Spielberg à travers ses films, mais je crois qu'on est tous ici curieux de savoir Steven Spielberg et comment en tant que l'homme. Olivia, my question for you is we feel we know Steven Spielberg through his movies, but you've actually gotten a chance to work with him, to know him. Tell us something about him that might surprise us.
He is the biggest kid I have ever had the chance to meet, and he brings out that inner child in you, and his curiosity is infectious and also really inspiring. And I think I learned a lot from Steve, and I think it's especially to stay curious and to remain and to keep that inner child within you, and to always try and keep learning and try and improve yourself no matter what.
Quand vous allez voir dans le film se passe entre deux mondes, en fait, le monde réel et puis le monde virtuel. Donc, bien sûr, beaucoup d'effets spéciaux, beaucoup de ce qu'on appelle le motion capture. Donc, la question pour Ty maintenant, c'était comment justement de travailler comme ça. Ty, I was just saying, so much of this movie you guys were working in motion capture. What was that like? Was it hard? Did anything funny or strange happen when you were wearing the motion capture suit?
Yes, absolutely. Sometimes because we could see, we were almost in a strange meta way creating the Oasis when we were shooting this movie, because ILM, the visual effects company and Digital Domain, who brought all of this together, and you're going to see how stunning the animation is in the film. But occasionally, when we would be walking around in the motion capture volume, and we could see on screen our avatars, and we could see ourselves driving our avatars, and occasionally one of the avatars' legs would get stuck like this. And it was. We always thought that was the funniest thing. But motion capture is, something that Olivia and I had never done before, and so it was a learning experience not only for us and the rest of our cast, but I think this was, I think Steven is not afraid to admit that this was a very challenging film to make technically, and for all of us, I think we were learning something that we didn't know every day. So that was really fun, and that was really rewarding.
Je veux juste enchaîner avec une question pour Steven, parce qu'apparemment il a pu travailler, en fait réaliser avec un casque de réalité virtuelle pour carrément réaliser dans ce monde virtuel. Steven, I was just saying, I read that you wore virtual reality goggles at times to actually direct within this virtual reality world. Tell us about that.
Well, all the actors did as well, because when you're in a motion capture volume, there's no props, there's no set. There's nothing but a big white space with about 150 computer cameras staring down at you, and another 20 video cameras just focusing on your physical performance. And because of that, the actors have no idea where's the door, where's the window, and the most important thing is, where am I? What is this? Like in the script it says the distracted globe, but what does it look like? So Digital Domain constructed virtual sets. So when we put on the virtual goggles, the 360-degree views, we actually could exist inside the sets that you're about to see. So the cast knew exactly where they were at all times. And of course, when it came time to act, the goggles came off, and they had to use their imaginations based on what they had just experienced.
Alors, comme vous allez voir à tous les Français qui nous regardent maintenant, en fait, ce film a plein de clins d'œil aux années 80. Et donc, ma question pour Ernest, c'est est-ce qu'il y a un qu'il aime le plus que Steven a pu glisser dans le film? Ernest, my question now for you, do you have a favorite Easter egg that Steven was able to slip into the film that you could tell us about, of course, without spoiling anything?
Well, I can tell you one that you can probably have seen in the trailer, and it's the DeLorean time machine from Back to the Future. That was always my dream car growing up, even before I saw Back to the Future, but then definitely after I saw Back to the Future, I always dreamed of owning a DeLorean someday. And then when I sold my book and the film rights to Warner Brothers, that was the first thing that I bought to use in my author photo, and then I drove it around on my book tour. And it was also, the protagonist's car, Wade's car, in my novel. And I was so pleased when Steven decided to call his friend Bob Zemeckis and make sure that we could use the DeLorean in the movie. That's something that made it from, pop culture into my own life and into my novel and into the movie, and it just brings me so much joy.
C'est super, Ernest qui a son propre DeLorean, je trouve ça fabuleux. Une question maintenant pour Ty. Ty, let's say that the virtual world of the Oasis, disons que ce monde virtuel était fait que des films de Steven Spielberg, vous choisiriez lesquels pour vivre, pour jouer dedans? Ty, my question was, let's say in the virtual world it was only made up of Steven Spielberg movies. Which one would you pick to roam around in?
Geez, that's a good question. I mean, he's made so many great movies that I grew up with and watched as a kid over and over and over and over, and all of them I kind of want to be in. But I don't know, I'm crossed between like AI and Sugarland Express, maybe.
Whoa.
Olivia.
Way back, so far back, I would be very surprised if you asked the audience how many in the audience have seen Sugarland Express. I would wonder if I could count the hands on one hand.
There's a few hands going up back here behind me. They're out there.
Yay, good, thank you, thank you.
Olivia, vous diriez quoi à cette question? What would you say, Olivia? What film would you pick?
I think Indiana Jones, Temple of Doom.
Oh, good.
I think that'd be really fun. That'd be really fun, and I'd love to be Harrison Ford. Just being the most naughty archaeologist there ever was.
It would be fun until Mola Ram walks up and tries to tear your heart out. That's the part. You don't want to be in that scene.
You've chosen sport.
Steven, est-ce que ce film aussi parle beaucoup des jeux vidéo? Vous-même, vous êtes fan de jeux vidéo? C'était quoi votre premier jeu vidéo que vous avez adoré? My question for Steven, of course, the film talks a lot about video games. Are you a video game fan? And what was the first big video game that you loved?
Well, I played video games all the way back to 1974 when I was directing Jaws on Martha's Vineyard, and they plugged in this machine on Vineyard Haven called a Pong game, a coin-operated Pong game. You put a quarter in, you play paddle tennis. And Richard Dreyfuss and I would play each other a couple times a week after filming, and it was really relaxing. It was one of the few things about that movie that was relaxing, was playing Pong. But then I became addicted to video games, and as they evolved, and, you know, Pac-Man, Ms. Pac-Man, Missile Command, you know, so many jousters, so many video games, you know, came on the market. And then the platform games like the Atari 2600. So yes, I'm a gamer. I've been a gamer all my life. I've even designed some video games. But when I first read the book and started working on the script with Zach Penn and Ernie, the thing that I said was, I want to make a movie for people who have never in their lives even played one video game. You don't have to know about video games or even have played video games to understand at the end of the ride you're about to go on. You know, it's not an impediment for really having a good time watching Ready Player One.
Une autre question pour Steven. Il y a une scène clé, je ne vais pas dire en trop, mais où on retrouve la chambre d'enfance du créateur des jeux vidéo. Ma question pour Steven, c'était comment sa chambre d'enfance? Il était comment comme enfant? Steven, in the movie, via one of the main characters played by Mark Rylance, we discover the childhood bedroom of this person who created this world. What was your childhood bedroom like, and what would we find if we roamed through there?
I had a great deterrent to keep my mom and my sisters out of my bedroom. I had a wild parakeet that I refused to put back in his cage and let fly around the room free. And you should have seen my curtains after about a year, because the curtains started to dissolve from the parakeet droppings. And so that parakeet was my guardian and kept my room the mess that I needed that room to be to feel like I was having an independent childhood.
Donc note, tout le monde va noter ça, il faut garder les oiseaux comme ça, les parakeets chez eux. We will all start keeping parakeets perhaps at home, at least some in the audience. Now I mentioned the audience because we have two people here who have questions for you guys there in London. I'm going to ask the first one to come up. Est-ce que je peux voir Sébastien, s'il vous plaît? Ah, on peut l'applaudir.
Hi guys.
So this is Sebastian. Déjà, vous voulez dire quelque chose? You wanted to say something?
Yeah, I would like to start with some few words for you, Mr. Spielberg. Just, I want to say thank you and I love you.
Oh, Thank you so much.
Ok, et ta question?
I will ask in French now. Je voudrais savoir quel est le secret pour Steven Spielberg pour continuer à réaliser des films qui font rêver autant les enfants que les parents.
Okay. Sebastian would like to know, Stephen, what's the secret that you have, if there is one, to making films that make adults dream as much as kids do?
Well, I think because it's not as much a secret as it is my sort of perpetual state of mind, which is I've never ever, been very far away from my childhood. I feel today the way I felt when I first started making movies. When I was making Ready Player One, the impulse to just leap out of bed and race to the set and have a great time making a movie and loving my cast and working hard. That is the same feeling I had at the very beginning of my career when I got to make my first movie, Duel. And what I've found is, as I've gotten older, that energy, that excitement has not gone away. So that's probably what connects me, I think, to a movie like this, which is really for audiences. This is really a movie where I directed this movie from that audience. I feel like I was sitting with you in that chair in the center aisle about 5 rows back directing the movie as opposed to behind the camera. I made other films where I know I've been behind the camera, but this movie in particular, I think I made this film from an audience because I became an audience to be able to tell the story.
Thank you for that, Sebastian.
I love
Merci.
you. I love you so much.
And we have Francois. Francois. All right, one more. Hello, so this is François. François aussi, il a une question. François, what's your question?
Bonjour Monsieur Spielberg. Alors j'aimerais savoir, est-ce que vous serez prêt à faire un Ready Player 2? Et si oui, est-ce qu'il y aura Tintin dedans?
Ah, will you be ready to do Ready Player 2? And if so, will Tintin be in it?
Well, a Ready Player 2 is up to you.
They got that. Thank you so much, François. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you.
Oui. Tintin, I would love to include Tintin someday, even in his own movie, because I think he deserves another movie after the first one.
I think so too.
Voilà, il pense aussi. Merci beaucoup à vous, François. We're almost running out of time. Just the time for one last question. Stephen, again, this one's for you. S'il fallait différencier entre la culture pop et la vraie culture, parce qu'on en parle beaucoup du pop culture dans ce film, quelle pour vous est la différence? Stephen, just one question to wrap up. If you had to differentiate between pop culture, which we talk about a lot in this movie, and just regular culture, is there a difference? What would the difference be?
Well, the difference for me is, culture, is a combination of education and politics and science and human resourcing. Culture is the stuff that we develop as from children to young adults to adults. That culture goes through us. We contribute to the culture. The culture contributes to everything we know, and including our values. And pop culture is a vacation from culture, where we actually get to stop and enjoy ourselves on that road going forward.
Thank you so much. Such a big thank you to all of you. Can we have a big round of applause, please, for Ernest Cline, Olivia Cook, Ty Sheridan, and Steven Spielberg. Au revoir.